what is one thing that people should start doing now to set themselves up to stay sober for the long term?
Be authentically you every second of the day. The people that truly love you will accept you just the way you are. So authenticity, in my opinion, is the cornerstone of a sober life.
I think when you're drinking, it's almost like a tattoo. You're making a permanent choice on temporary feelings. And it's going to pass. All feelings pass. They're all temporary. And if you can realize that, then that's going to help immensely.
I would say, look at your life and strip down everything that is an expectation, everything that you feel obligated to do, everything that you do that you think you're supposed to do, and figure out who you really are. And again, with authenticity, find your values, give yourself permission to lean into what's actually important to you, not just what you were told should be important to you, and then shape your life around that.
My answer to this closing question is going to essentially sum up what you all said in very few words. Stay connected to your life. If you can stay connected to your life, then you're going to be giving it purpose. You're going to give it meaning.
Welcome to No Alcohol Needed, the podcast. You are hanging out at the intersection of emotional wellness, personal growth, and living an alcohol-free life. Here we share everything we've learned and continue to learn about how to be happy, no alcohol needed. Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Alcohol Needed, the podcast. So happy to have you guys here with us today. We are here with Sean and Barkley. And if you guys want to get to know them, make sure you go to the website, noalcoholneeded.net. Click on Meet the Voices, and you can get to know these guys. You can get to know everybody that is on our team that hangs out here with us for these conversations. So make sure you do that. We're going to jump right into this. So we're going to talk a little bit about relapse, especially after a long period of time. So what goes through your head when someone talks about going back to drinking after they've been alcohol free for many years? For some people, it's scary. Like they hear that and they get scared. They've worked really hard to get where they're at. And then the idea of losing it all is a terrible thought. And for others, they want to know what happened so they can learn some lessons, they can apply it to their lives. But whatever it is that comes up for you today, we're going to talk about what makes people start thinking that drinking is a good idea, even after they've been sober for years. So we're going to start right off with saying, what do you guys think? What is your immediate reaction when you hear that somebody relapsed after years of sobriety? What goes through your head?
I think they go back and want to do some more research and development. They hadn't gotten enough, information yet. So they have to go back out and research. But I always want to ask and put my psychology hat on and figure out what led to it, why they thought it was a good idea. I ran into a convenience store to feed my sugar addiction, since we're talking about addiction, to go get my Snickers and Monster. And there's a guy in there buying a 6-pack or 12-pack who used to chair meetings. And I'm like, he was like the pillar of this meeting. And now here he is drinking again. And I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, so what are you doing? He's like, getting some beer. It's like, is it a problem at all? He's like, no, not yet. I'm like, yeah, not yet. And so it always throws me off, especially with situations like that. But I always just wonder what's going on. Like, what makes you think it's okay to drink now? And I always thought it was weird to drink after having AA in your life. Like, it always messed with my buzz because I've been to so many AA meetings, and now I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And it never felt right after I said I was going to stop drinking. So I always try to get inside their heads when I learn about it and just ask questions. Just be like a kid and just be like, what happened,
Get curious. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. My first reaction is I hope to God they don't feel like they've wasted all that sober time.
Yeah.
When I spent the first 10 years of my sobriety in the 12-step community. I still believe in it, but based on what I do for a living, I don't do that anymore. The thing that really irritated me was when people would drink or relapse, you would hear this, well, you just wasted all that time and you need to go back and pick 24-hour chip up. And I'm like, well, no, you didn't. You've drinking one bottle of booze over the past 10 years. You're still way ahead of the game. So like not, and I know when I relapsed, I felt shame all the time. Like, don't get
Yeah.
into the shame so much that it continues to bring you down farther and farther and farther into that relapse. Recognize that you drank, let it scare the hell out of you, get back on the horse and move on.
Yeah.
And I just, that whole like, oh, throw the whole baby out with the bathwater part. I never understood that. And I actually participated in it for many years too, until I realized that that's just not worth it.
You brought a good point up when you said the word waste. It just blew my mind up. It's like, I don't think anything is wasted in this journey because
Yeah.
it's all, it's your journey. It's experience, strength, and hope, and it takes what it takes to get there. And you may think it's wasting, but you're actually self-sabotaging to get you to the finish line of where you need to be. So none of it's wasted. It's all good, bad, and ugly is all comes together to some secret society, called the
I
12-step
totally agree
program.
with that.
It's
Yeah.
nothing's wasted. G- uh,
I
I'm
think a relapse is actually a very beneficial thing if you learn from it.
Mhm.
right, right.
If you learn from it and get back on the horse. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't
Yeah,
agree more.
And to
yeah,
that point, I firmly believe that everything in my life had to happen exactly the way that it happened in order for me to be where I am, who I am right now, and I'm pretty happy with who I am now. And that included a relapse. Like I was sober for 14 months or so, and then I drank again, and I learned so much, and it was necessary. I don't recommend it, but I sure as hell learned a lot of important lessons when that happened that I could carry into this version of me and this version of sobriety. What comes up for me, I guess, because of that experience, when I hear somebody relapsed after a really long time, I'm like, okay, what was it that was missing that first time round? Because something was missing or something fell off that they had but don't have anymore. For me, when I look back, and again with the lesson that I learned from relapse after a good chunk of time, there was a lot of stuff that was missing, a lot of stuff I didn't have, that I didn't know how to get and I didn't know how to do. And that's what eventually made drinking sound like a great idea, because all I was doing at that point was not drinking. That was it. Um,
yeah.
and there was an awful lot going that wasn't happening that needed to happen for this to be a long-term thing. So I guess that's the first thing that I do is I just wonder, like, what part of it was missing for them? Were they missing people? Were they missing connection? Were they,
Mhm.
did they need this or that? Or there's so many different things that I think we all require for this to be a realistically lasting thing.
Julie, did you find that the just not drinking was pretty miserable?
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I white knuckled my way through 14
Yeah.
months of my life, and I was angry at pretty much everybody and everything. And I was bitter that it was not a good place to be. And I've met people like that who have been sober for 20 years and they're
Hmm.
still angry all day, every day, and they're bitter. And that's because there's some parts of this process that I think that are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get curious about what happened to the point of, okay, you had a drink, but it took a lot for you to get there.
Okay.
It wasn't just the one event. It wasn't just the one time. If you've been sober for a fair amount of years, you probably got pretty comfortable in not drinking.
Mhm.
And at some point you did you did things to take care of yourself. You did things to keep you made it important. And so you said no to certain things and you said yes to things, and you used that guidepost to help steer you to not do the thing. And then you got comfortable, which is also okay. But I always carried this fear around with me for a really long time. And I mean, AA porks that fear into you. And I don't carry that fear around with me anymore. But like that fear kept me sober and kept me doing the work for a fair amount of time, even after I left AA. And because I was deathly afraid of like, I wonder what's gonna happen if I was to drink again, because my life was already like was shit. So that that carrying that around was a benefit. But I remember talking about, I'm more comfortable now, and that scares me because that comfortability, because I don't know what to do with it. Does that mean I'm that much closer to drinking again? And the answer to that was no. I was just growing.
Mm-hmm.
And but the difference being there is, I think, back to the original question, is what did you start letting go of? What pieces of you did you start letting go of to the point where you thought it was a good idea again? And not saying that it's wrong or that it's bad, because it's hard to frame it in that way without being honest or being real or being curious, inducing shame. Because I don't want to induce shame. I want to induce the curiosity part about, I mean, if you're okay with that's where things are, that's so be it. But if you're not, then how can I be there with you? That's my intention. Is like, how can I be there with you? What happened? I want to hear that part of your story, about like the pieces of you that you let go of that got you back to that point. Because I remember being close to wanting a drink again because it felt like an option.
Yeah.
And I decided that the fear was too great to use that as an option. But I mean, it's a tough subject because there's so much shame around even that word, relapse.
Yeah.
I hate the word relapse, and I wish there was
Yeah.
like a better term that was
Huh.
less shamey than relapse. But like slipped sometimes sounds a little too flippant, and I don't think we have any great language that works there. But I hear what you're saying, because you can't learn those lessons until you get rid of the shame. Right? As long as you're sitting there in shame, you're just going to bury yourself in it. You're not going to come back out. But there's like a fine line between, okay, I'm going to own this. I'm going to take responsibility for this. And I'm going to drown myself in shame over it. And I think that's what you're distinguishing there.
Yeah, and that's what Sean was talking about too. Was
Yes, yeah.
basically like the ownership of it. That's there's nothing inherently bad about it, especially if you're gonna own it. Yes, I had a slip. I drank. I did this. I did whatever it was. But I'm gonna use this lesson and figure out what it is I need to do next. I mean, then you have another jumping off point, another data point to figure out what you're missing.
Yeah.
More information gained.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the fear thing that you're talking about. Like, I think so many people, especially, I remember 6-8 months into this second time around when I was doing it with support and community and all of that. And I remember the one person that actually, like, he was the first person that I talked to. He was the person who convinced me this was actually possible. I was going to make it happen. He ended up drinking after 3 years, and it hit me hard. Because I was like, okay, but I thought he had this figured out. And then that you get that fear, like, okay, if he seemed so solid 8 months ago, what happened? And then, oh my God, is it going to happen to me? And you feel like it's just going to come. It almost feels like it's just going to jump out of nowhere and grab you and drag you down. Like that's what that felt like for me when that happened. So what I'd love to do is talk about, like, what are some actual signs, or in your experience, what were some of the signs that there's actually something to take note of, right? Because we can't go through life terrified that we're going to drink again. That's that whole like your addictions doing push-ups in the parking lot thing that I hate so much. Like, let's not go through life being terrified, right?
Yeah.
But realistically, what do we need to be watching for? What do we look for? What does that like drifting start to look like? for you or for somebody you know or whatever.
Yeah, I think if I'm telling myself I got this thing figured out, that's the first freaking problem. Again, I've been sober for 2 decades and I don't have this thing figured out. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I'm not going to drink, but
Yeah.
if I start getting cocky, that's the one thing. But the other thing I realize is that if I start getting to a place, or when I would a long time ago when I was relapsing, I noticed I was getting to that place when I started not accepting my life the way life is, right? We talk about 12 step, we accepted life on life's terms. When I start bitching and moaning about you or about me or about them or about that and just complaining, that's the ism.
Yeah.
Alcoholism is the inability to accept reality as it is. And so when I find myself in that place, I'm getting closer to a drink. Now, for those of us that have been sober a long time, the space between the last drink and the next drink is a lot farther. So I have a lot more tools to prevent myself from going and starting to drink if I become unaccepting of how life is. But if I do that over and over again, let's say for a year, I'm gonna be drunk by the end of that year. I
Hmm.
know
Yeah.
that. I've proved that to myself. So
Yeah.
that would be the one thing, is the lack of acceptance of what is for an extended period of time. You're going to get yourself really screwed, blued, and tattooed, as my grandfather used to say.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfect, Sean. I have a prop tonight. My favorite page in the AA book is 417, the acceptance part. And I love that page so much. I mean, I think it's very smart that the Serenity Prayer literally talks about acceptance. And for me, I drank after 4 years, and I got this book in July 31st of 2006, and so I just now hit 6 years, I believe, 7 years, maybe 7 years, and I couldn't accept that I was an alcoholic, and so I felt like I was missing something. I felt like there was a part of me that was not gonna be okay to not drink, and I couldn't be me, and so I couldn't be comfortable. And so we're saying so many themes that are so prevalent about being comfortable and accepting, and to understand that you can't do it anymore. And that was so hard for me to just wrap my head around, like, I can't drink. And then it takes a while to get comfortable of saying, I can't drink, and it's hard.
Hmm.
I think there's truth be told, I think there will always be a part of me that will miss drinking. And that's so weird to say, but if I'm being honest, maybe it's Dave Matthews playing Crash that you're like, oh, maybe a little drink might be good, but then you're like, no, probably shouldn't do that. There's always that piece that will always be there for me. But just because you have those feelings doesn't mean you can act on those feelings. That's emotional maturity of having feelings, but not doing anything with those feelings. But I think it's accepting who you are and not letting you think that you're missing something is so important in this process. And it takes those slips, those relapses to get to that of like, based on my history here, like, let's do the math, like it's not a, the math ain't mathin', like
Yeah.
and it takes, sometimes you get the one chip wonders, and there's me who's like, I have a bag full of one chips, of desire chips. And so it it takes what it takes, but accepting who you are is so freaking hard, and I hate it.
I don't know. Like for me, there was a shift at some point, and that's the second time around. I've done a fair bit of work, but it's not I can't drink anymore. It's like, thank God I don't have to drink anymore. And
Mm.
that's how I feel. And every once in a while, I'll think back and be like, oh man, it was so much fun that one time that I didn't actually, black out and I actually managed myself for a minute. But mostly, like, I have this life where if I did drink, it would just interrupt all of the
Mm.
cool stuff and the joy that I've created. So I guess there's that shift. There's somewhere in there, and I don't even think I can tell you exactly where. I'm gonna say probably close to like 2.5, 3 years, where I was like, man, if I drank now, like I would lose so much joy and so much
Yeah.
so much purpose and everything that it went from I can't to I'm just so freaking glad that that's not who I am anymore. When it comes to what like some signs that that somebody's drifting a little bit from me, and I think this is for me and for a lot of the people that I work with too. It's like all of those things that we put in place to take care of ourselves, and Steve mentioned this earlier, we systematize our self-care early in sobriety, right? We make sure that we've got a morning routine and an evening routine, and we have things that we do consistently. And for some people, that's getting together with a support group or whatever those things are. And they shift and they change throughout time. But when those things start slipping, all of the self-care things, all of the like regulation things that we do to keep ourselves in a stable place, when those start slipping, that's like my first inkling that things might be going south. And that's for me, and that's for and like Sean said, I'm so far away from a drink. I'm so far away from even thinking a drink sounds like a good idea. But if I start not doing the things that I know are good for me, then I know that I'm headed that way eventually, like that becomes a possibility. And I think that's something to watch out for because at first I don't notice that I'm doing it. At first, I'm just busy. I'm busy. I'm productive. I've got so much going on. I'm excited about this project. Like it starts out good and then it slowly starts shifting into some version of burnout and not taking care of myself at all and forgetting all of the things that are good for me until I'm struggling. And then I'm like, oh, right. I haven't like gone for a walk in 3 weeks. And, you kind of notice that. So I think that's an important one.
We've had a previous guest on the show a really long while back who shared, I think he was 5-6 years sober or something like that. And he was a salesman, he was loving life, he was making a bunch of money, he had all the things, he was didn't really do a whole heck of a lot of work, but he got right into work and business and all the rest of it, and then ended up crashing and burning.
Yep.
Because he poured all of the spare energy that was given when he gave up the drinking into achieving and getting more of just something else. And so it just got swapped and changed. And Julie, you bring up those parts. Like I think, okay, I've worked through a bunch of my people pleasing. I've worked through a bunch of my anxious attachment style. I've worked through a bunch of like boundaries and that sort of thing. I mean, it's still hard as heck to say no, but when I brush up against it, I can see that it's there and I can have a conversation with it. Isolate. I know that when I begin isolating myself, if I go too long, it's not good. I know that if I go back to saying yes too much, like there's old behaviors that are still familiar. And if I start going back to those old behaviors that were familiar, I know I'm probably going to see the exact same results in my life because of those. But I'm probably going to get snippy again. I'm probably going to, like what you were saying earlier, Sean, I'll be a little bit cocky. There'll be a part of me that'll start avoiding life or pushing it off and not dealing with things. And I think that's what that drift looks like, because it's not fast, it's not quick, it's not immediate, like losing a family member. It was one of the things I was scared of the most was, okay, if a really bad thing happened, then I knew that I would have to like resort to my tools. And so that was good. If a really good thing happened, though, it was like you didn't have to resort to your tools because it was good and it felt great. And then there was like the spot in the middle. And so down at the bottom, when stuff was shit, that was my cue to use my tools. And then if I could use those tools in the middle, then I had a stronger base than waiting to hit that spot. And I did that. I did it a lot. I hit that spot a lot. I drifted that way a lot. But I think that's what the drift looks like.
Mhm.
Is
It's exhausting.
Mhm.
it's slow and it's tiresome, and then one day
Yeah.
you wake up and you're like, how in the heck did I get this far down again? And I mean,
Yeah.
it's disappointing.
And you don't realize it's happening until it happens.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something really quick that just came up, and I think it's important. We have a lot of people that we talk to that, we host a meeting. We've got our community. People will be hanging out. They're really involved. They're doing great. They're thriving, right? In their life without alcohol. And then they're like, okay, I've got it figured out. I'm good. Peace out. And then off they go. And that's fine. But you hear them say things like, I'm just tired of like always doing the work, always doing like the sober work, always thinking about being sober. And so then they peace out and they're like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm tired of thinking about it. And like I get that, I hear that so loud and clear. But I think there's something that happens at some point where it like the stuff that I do to take care of me, that doesn't feel like I'm thinking about sobriety. I don't think about not drinking on a daily basis. It doesn't come, I mean, other than like the work that I do. But the stuff that I do that I would say is my quote unquote work of recovery is stuff like getting up and journaling and exercising and like things that are just good for humans.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I do every day. And I think that when you stop looking at it as, oh, I have to do the work of sobriety, like I'm journaling because this is my recovery work. I journal because it's good for me, because I'm a human with a human brain and emotions. Like that's it. Has nothing to do with the sober thing. So there's this thing where like you've almost got to look at it as, okay, the stuff that I've learned, these tools that I've learned, the stuff that's good for me, it's just good for me because I'm human, not
Yeah.
because I'm sober. Because at some point you start resenting it. You're like, I don't want to have to do this because it's more work that I have to do because I'm sober and whatever. And then those are the people that you see that eventually like drift out of the community. They stop doing those things. They're like, I'm fine. I've got it figured out. And those are the
Yeah.
people that eventually come back a year or two later and they're like, all right, I didn't have it figured out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, just searching for. I mean, I remember this time where it's just like I wasn't worried about being sober anymore. I just wanted more of that peace that I'd felt.
mhm,
Right? It's just like I want more of that. So now when I do the self care, it's not about being sober. It's about finding grounded peace,
yes.
Yeah.
because that's all I care about is peace now.
Yeah.
I don't care
Yeah.
about anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about like, obviously things are missing in somebody's life if they end up going back and drinking. What are some of those things that could be missing? What did you notice for you? What have you noticed in people you've worked with? Or like what can our listeners be looking at reflecting on in their own lives? What things can be missing from your recovery, from the work you're doing that could lead you back there?
I've got a thought here that might rub some people the wrong way, but it's something that I hear often. And a lot of people say this and then they learn otherwise. And they say, you know, my wife's great or my husband's fantastic. They say my job's great, it's fantastic. I love my work. My parents are great, my sister's great, my friends are fantastic. I'm just a problem. And I'm not saying that they are the problem. But what I'm saying is like it's impossible for you to always be the problem in your life. There's things that need to get worked through, but it's impossible for like everything to be perfect around you because everyone carries their own shit and you are just the actual problem. Like that's just impossible. Anyways.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Sean mentioned trying to lose weight, and a lot of people do that, and a lot of people struggle with that. And I kind of feel like this is similar to that because you can look at it as like a diet, or you can look at it as like a lifestyle change. And it really has to be like a shift to where you just see things differently, and you don't see it as going to weigh in or not eating a Snickers, but you see it as you like the results. And so the results motivates you to continue to have the lifestyle change instead of like, oh, can't eat that, or, oh, damn it, and it's different for everybody when that happens, if that happens. And sometimes it doesn't happen yet, or sometimes it already has happened, but it's such an important part of it's like a little tweak, and then you see it differently. And like you put a new pair of glasses on, and sometimes those glasses are dirty, and sometimes they're always dirty, or sometimes you can get new glasses, and then you're like, I think I have this. I don't, cocky have it, but I think I understand it better because that's when you fall. And when you say the never ever word, that kind of messes up things. Like I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to cheat on my wife. Well, those people sometimes cheat or slip. And so you have to be cautious about how you say what you're doing in this recovery because it is such a mind game. It's a mind game. It's sports is a mind game. Recovery is a mind game.
Life is a damn mind game, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
True.
Julie, you had said something earlier that I think is very, very important. And I guess I'd speak to the people that are still struggling. What I'm hearing is that your life isn't in a place where it's got enough meaning
Mhm.
that you there's no way in the world. I know I said I don't have this, but I would never trade what I have now for any amount of drugs or alcohol ever. It is not worth it. Not even my best day. It's just not worth it. I've got so much to lose. So if you haven't gotten to that place, then work on that. Work on what is my purpose? Why am I here? If you feel like your job is great, your family's great, your relationships are great, and it's just you, I think you're deluding yourself in one of those other areas.
Mm.
I truly believe that you're just not aware enough to know that maybe the family isn't great or the job isn't great or
Yeah.
how I'm spending my days isn't great. So
Yeah.
when you get to that place of, I don't like saying I have purpose, but like my life has deep meaning.
Yeah.
And that meaning is so important to me that I won't drink again because of that meaning. The worst thing that could happen to me, and I still wouldn't drink. I know that. And, whatever that worst thing is, because there's just so much meaning. So when your question was what might be missing, maybe meaning.
I
Yeah.
agree with that completely. I was actually,
Yeah.
Steve and I were just talking earlier, right before we got on here, actually. And I was like, man, like I talked to so many people who they like their day, every day is a slog. They're just like, okay, I get up, I do the things, they go to bed. They're not excited about anything. They're not passionate about anything. They don't feel like they're making an impact in the world or in their circle or anything. And I'm like, I have through so much effort, like this isn't random. This is so much work and so much effort and definitely some luck. Like I get so freaking excited every day to wake up. Like I love waking up in the morning because I look forward to the day. Almost always. Obviously we all have bad days, but like I'm excited about my life and I'm excited about the way I spend my time and that is the kind of thing like Sean's talking about where like I'm not going to drink because I'm not going to mess that up because when I was drinking I was not like excited to wake up for the day like I feel now. And everybody has the potential to find that. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's, some people are like, oh, well, that must be good for you that you know what is important to you. Like we all, it takes so much work. It takes so much inside stuff to find that purpose. But
Yeah.
that's what makes it worth it every single day to get out of bed and be excited about it. And that's what makes it worth it to not ever
Yeah.
want to ruin that with alcohol.
And
Yeah.
it's important to say that it hasn't always been that way,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? You're 4.5 years, just over 4.5 years into this. And I mean, it doesn't start out that way.
Mm-mm.
It starts out
Yeah.
gritty. It starts out rubbing up against sandpaper. It starts out bloody and it starts out like really freaking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's got tears and it's got, disappointment and that's life. It has life wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And when you come from a spot of not really knowing yourself, not questioning maybe a lot of things, a lot of decisions you've made in the past and whatever it is, and then making a decision for your future, one that feels in alignment. Julie's Values Workshop, I'm just going to throw a little like plug out there, but one that that lives in a little bit of alignment with those values that you hold true, and it builds from there. And it's small little incremental. It's 5.5 years, and I can say 5 years, and I can say that too. And I mean, my days, I'm waking up right now at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm essentially working from 6:15, 6:30. I'm out the door until 9 o'clock at night because of work and school and all of these other things. Hey, this podcast included.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all choices that I've made because they're things that are important to me. And I haven't had that in a really long time. I'll share a story while we're here. I was standing at the photocopier at work, and I was copying tax documents because I was going to put a tax return together. And I just had an absolute moment of gratitude for where I was. I was photocopying documents, of all things. Gratitude for where I was, gratitude for what it took for me to get there, gratitude for the people along the way that chose to believe in me. Because, Julie, when you talked about luck, your luck quotient increases when you put work into things that you care about. And damn, I would not be here if it wasn't for people that chose to believe in someone, in this case, me, even though they barely knew me. And I had an absolute moment of gratitude. And not very often do I ever share it. So I walked into my boss's office, and I went up to him and I said, Tom, I got something to share with you. Because too often do I keep these things quiet, and I think I should share these things more. And I thanked him. And I shared the moment of gratitude that I had with him. And I thanked him for having me be there. And that wasn't the easiest thing to do because it's super vulnerable, but also it felt like the right thing to do. And that just kind of goes off what you were talking about, Julie, was having that purpose and getting excited to wake up in the morning to go and work freaking 9-10 hours in a tax office and still come home and still do homework and still be tired and still be all the things. And really enjoying the purpose that I've given them.
Yeah, and it's not to say like my life is super exciting every day. Not
No.
by any means. Like my life is mostly a slog. It's just a slog in things that are really important and really special to me. And I think maybe and we actually have a podcast scheduled like in a couple weeks on finding your purpose. So we can probably like table some of this until we get to that episode. But no, there's I slogged through a good portion of my life and I worked really hard and it wasn't fulfilling at all. Now I slug through life and it's super fulfilling because it's aligned with what's really important to me. So we'll table that for the purpose episode that's coming up, or y'all are just gonna end up hearing all the same stuff from me and Steve. But so let's kind of shift this over to what does lasting, sustainable sobriety actually look like for you? If there's people listening who are like, okay, well, I'm like 8 months sober, I'm a year sober. What does this look like if we're talking long term? And I think Sean's going to have like a ton of stuff here, I would imagine, because Sean's a couple decades into this. But what does a lasting, sustainable sobriety look like? How does it become realistic?
To answer your question, what does sustainable sobriety look like? You know, the foundation of this is to thy own self be true. And if you can't be true, then that's long-term sustainability is going to be extremely difficult because you have to be true to yourself of your intentions, what you're trying to do, why you're quitting. And if that can't be honest, then it's going to be a hard program to be sustainable in. And so And that's tough. It's tough to be honest with yourself and to be honest with others. And it's like extremely difficult. It's worthwhile to be honest with yourself, to make these life changes, to find the purpose and to find that why, why we're doing this. And I think all of that stems from honesty. And if you can't do that, then it's going to be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Honesty is a huge one. Honesty with yourself and honesty with other people. That's like the foundation of how I started this whole journey was those two things.
Yeah.
So definitely.
Yeah, the integrity.
Mhm.
Like it's like what does the life of sobriety look like? It looks like integrity. What does that mean? Son of a bitch, everything is real. Sober, SOBER. Son of a bitch, everything is real, and I'm gonna meet it as real as I can without being inauthentic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what does sobriety look like? You're looking at it. There's
Yeah.
4 people on the screen. That's what sobriety looks like. It's messy, it's ugly, it's wonderful, it's fantastic, it's neurotic and erotic. I mean, it's all of it.
Yeah.
It is all of it. It's life without medication. And it is the greatest gift of my life. And I mean this, the greatest gift of my life that I'm an alcoholic, because I do not have the choice to not do the work.
Mm.
Because if I don't do the work, I'm effing dead.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't get to be an asshole for weeks on end. I get to be an asshole for a little bit because I'm human, but I don't get to do it for that long.
Yeah.
And so, what does it look like? It just looks like life without the medication, with what Barkley said, being as honest as you possibly can with yourself and with everybody around you, especially when it's not going very well.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think sustainability for me. So, and this always goes back to values. I'll probably talk about values on every episode, but when you know your values, when you know what's important to you, when you know who you actually are, then sustainable sobriety is living by those values. And sometimes that's really messy and you have to do really hard, painful things. And sometimes you have to kind of hold yourself accountable because it's not always easy to do those things. But if you can know, like Barclay said, to thine own self be true, if you can know you and you can honor that as much as possible, and everybody's going to make mistakes. You're always going to do stuff that goes against that. And then you're going to be like, damn, okay, now I have to apologize and I have to, go back and fix some stuff. But if you can stay aligned with your values long term as much as possible and base your actions and decisions off of those values, it becomes something that's sustainable and something that actually feels good, not just something
Yeah.
you can like white knuckle your way through, because that is not sustainable. It
Yeah.
becomes a life that actually feels really good.
Yeah.
Now, you could be like me and avoid really figuring out what those values were because I feared the change that those values would give. Or you could be like Julie, she just jumped right into it, and it was like something she really dug into. It helped me along the way. I think this journey is so individual to everybody in their path, and because that authenticity part that you talk about, the values part, Barkley values different things than I do. Sean values different things than I do. Julie values different things than I do. Not all of them are different. We might have overlap. The commonality part, I think, is the most important, is our human commonality. And where I connect this with the whole staying, alcohol free for a really long time and making it sustainable is it all goes back to what works for me in a way that is also right. It's not a way that is selfish. It's the way that is right. Here's what works for me. Here's what supports my values. Here's how I have to, move. There's things in my life that I have to move away from purposefully because it's good for me. Not because I have an unhealthy thing, it takes a lot to figure that one out. It's like, okay, no, this just isn't good for me. I'm going to leave that one aside. You know, I'm too scared to climb up the side of a mountain because I just have a really big fear of heights. Not going to do it. You know what I mean? Not going to go rock climbing. Not going to, whatever that may be. But it is sticking to that core piece, the inner voice,
Mm-hmm.
and not shutting up that inner voice, and every once in a while letting that sucker see some light and giving it some air.
It's doing what you know to be right, which is not always easy.
Mm-hmm. Makes a
Sean
big difference.
mentioned, well, we had a little break there for a second. Sean mentioned talking about the differences in different types of relapses here, and I think this is important because
Yeah.
when we say the word relapse again, like for lack of a better word, for some people that means that they were sober for a while, they drank once, and then they got right back to it and kept going. For other people like me, that means that they and like Sean, that means like I drank once and it was a year of getting like downhill slope in a hurry to the point of almost burning down my life. And I think that those are two pretty different experiences. So Sean, I'm gonna hand that one to you because it sounded like that was something you had some thoughts on.
Yeah, and I wasn't. I wanted to speak to those people that have had a bad relapse. Like, I stopped drinking for 4 years, but I did other things, right? I did other drugs and stuff, and I thought I was sober, and then I started drinking again. And over the course of that 4 years plus another year of drinking, uh, I destroyed everything. I lost my jobs. I lost every relationship that I cared about. I lost a marriage. I lost a home. I lost cars. I lost the respect of everybody in my life, everybody, including my parents and my children. And my purpose for the first 5 years of my recovery at that point was just to become trustworthy again.
Mhm.
That was all my purpose was, is for people to start trusting me again. And that gave me enough purpose in life. That gave me enough meaning I value these relationships and I want to make them whole again. Now, I wasn't completely to blame for everything, but I definitely had a large part. So I just didn't. I don't want to. When I first started talking about relapse, it's like this flippant thing. No, it's not. It's a very destructive, awful thing for a lot of us. But if you are on the right side of the lawn, you have the ability to make it up. You have the ability to do that. Will everybody come back? I don't know. Not everybody in my life came back, but the majority of them did. The people that really loved me did.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I'm with you, brothers and sisters. If you're in the middle of the shitstorm, you can get through it. You really can. You just don't do it by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and to echo that, I think when we talk about relapse and it's a day or even a week, it's, pick yourself up and dust yourself off and keep going forward. When it's been a year of burning down your life and destroying everything, it's not quite so easy. It also is still possible. And it's probably
Yes, it is.
it's gonna take a lot more rebuilding and it's gonna take a lot more healing on your part, on other people's parts. It's gonna take a hell of a lot of humility. Um,
Yeah.
and, there's so much there. And I mean, we have another episode about like what to do after a relapse. And I'm gonna link that in the show notes because it was
Mm-hmm.
another great episode on this topic, especially after, if that relapse did last a long time, because those are two different experiences. And I think we have to treat them as such. For me, the second time I quit drinking was essentially the same as the first. Like it wasn't, just jump back on the wagon. It was like I had to go find the wagon again. And then go through all of those steps again, the like how to not drink for a day and then how to not drink for a week and how to talk to other people. And so it was like learning it all over again for me. And it doesn't mean I lost the experience that I had, but it took a bit for it to kick back in for me to remember how to do that. So
Yeah.
definitely an experience worth talking about. And I don't want to not talk about that for those people that are listening, because we have kind of talked about the quick little bumps in the road, but sometimes it's like a black hole in the road that you fall into for quite a while. Yeah, so I'm going to throw the closing question out here really quick. What is one thing that people should start doing now to set themselves up to stay sober for the long term?
Okay. Be authentic.
Mhm.
Be authentically you every second of the day. The people that truly love you will accept you just the way you are. So authenticity, in my opinion, is the cornerstone of a sober life.
Yep.
I think when you're drinking, it's almost like a tattoo. You're making a permanent choice on temporary feelings, and it's going to pass. All feelings pass. They're all temporary. And if you can realize that, then that's going to help immensely. And if you can remember why you stopped drinking, remember what it was like, remember what happened, and if you're able to play that tape forward, that's also going to help keep you sober, because you know from previous experience how bad it got. And so that's going to motivate you to want to change and be different. And so you have to be so much aware of all of that together at once.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I would say look at your life and strip down everything that is an expectation, everything that you feel obligated to do, everything that you do that you think you're supposed to do, and figure out who you really are. And again, with authenticity, know your values. Find your values. Give yourself permission to lean into what's actually important to you, not just what you were told should be important to you, and then shape your life around that. Every aspect of your life. When you shape every aspect of your life around your values, then then you're in it for the long game.
Mm-hmm. That's authenticity. If you don't know who
Mhm.
you are, just say, I don't know who I am. That's being authentic.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Being authentic doesn't mean I've got it all together. It just means I don't have any of this together, and
yeah.
I'm going to communicate that to you. I have no idea what I'm doing. That's authentic.
Absolutely.
It's very much living in your truth, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My answer to this closing question is going to essentially sum up what you all said in a very few words. Stay connected to your life.
Mm.
If you can stay connected to your life, then you're going to be giving it purpose. You're going to give it meaning. I want to say thank you, Barkley. Thank you, Sean. Julie, as always. To our listeners, you made it this far. I don't know what I'm going to do yet here at the end, but I'm going to try and make it some sort of entertaining, because I want you to listen to the whole episode and then wonder what the heck I'm going to do at the end. I have no idea what that is. But anyways, right now it's not. I'm just going to ask you to do something like I did the last episode. Was if you're listening on Apple, go and leave a review. You saw the stickers on a previous episode. We do have stickers. If you take a screenshot of that and send us a DM, we'll mail you stickers. Absolutely mail you no alcohol needed stickers. We love you guys. Thank you guys for being here, listening to us, listening to what we have to give you. I hope you enjoy it. Barkley, thank you again. Sean, thank you again. Our listeners, thank you again. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.